Welcome to our Global Johnson Controls webinar. We'll be discussing the independent economic impact study that was conducted by Forrester Consulting, and we'll hear about the ROI, return on investment, impact that OpenBlue digital solutions delivered in buildings. So please stay on the line with us. We will start our discussion shortly. All right, let's get things kicked off. An official good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to our Global Johnson Controls webinar. We'll be discussing the independent economic impact study that was conducted by Forrester Consulting, and we'll hear about the ROI impact that the OpenBlue digital solutions deliver in buildings. We have some great examples coming from different industries describing the value that was achieved in commercial real estate facilities, financial facilities, all the way to critical environments such as hospitals. But before we get started, let me introduce you to our expert panel here today. Starting with Nick Maybury. He is a principal consultant at Forrester Consulting, specializing in total economic impact studies. He'll be sharing the biggest learnings he had in this latest study. Welcome, Nick. Joining us also from Forrester Research is Abhijit Sunil. Abhijit is a senior analyst focusing on green technologies, sustainability strategies, and emerging technologies, to name just a few. Welcome, Abhijit. From Johnson Controls is Julius Marchwicki, General Manager and Vice President for Digital Solutions and an industry expert with over 20 years' experience in software businesses. Welcome, Julius, and thank you all for being here with us today. A quick look at our agenda. We will kick off with Julius, who will share a bit more background about the purpose of the study. Then we will have Nick walk us through the interesting impact findings from his discussion with 5 high-profile companies who joined in for the study and have OpenBlue solutions in use. Then Abhijit will share some important findings from recent smart building studies from Forrester Research, and we will close out with a panel discussion and a Q&A session. You can, of course, share your questions with us ahead of the Q&A session, and to do that, please add your questions to the chat throughout the discussion. We have Johnson Controls smart building experts on the line who are monitoring the chat and are excited to engage with you through this session. So get your questions in and keep them coming. Now, Julius, I'll hand over to you to kick us off.
Thank you, and thanks so much to everyone for joining. We know that we strive to deliver value to our customers each and every day. We hear qualitatively about how much our customers like working with us and our tools, how much they love our team of experts and technicians in the field. So we really wanted to help quantify the value that those customers receive with our digital solutions each and every day. We know we provide quantitative value to our customers with the products that they can achieve, with energy savings, real estate savings. But what we didn't have was an independent, consistent way to measure all of those areas. So across all of our different customers that have different real estate types, different portfolios, no two buildings are the same. They all have different operating patterns. We really enlisted Forrester to help us do some of this analysis. They've completed many TEI studies across industries, from small companies to enterprises, and so they're the logical choice for us to help us with this assessment. This also helps validate what features and capabilities we put into our products to help our customers each and every day, and gives us laser focus on what we can do in the future. So without any further delay, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Thank you, Julius. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nick Mayberry, and I'm a principal consultant in Forrester's Total Economic Impact practice. We develop case studies that explore the financial impact that investing in certain technologies can have on an organization. These studies are always based on data gathered from real-life customers of those technologies. And I'm here today to present the findings from our recent study regarding the total economic impact of Johnson Controls OpenBlue. So I just want to acknowledge up front, right, that not everyone here today may know about our TEI studies, and I want to provide some brief background so that everyone can get up to speed. Our TEI studies help companies quantify the value of the technologies they offer to their customers. There are four main areas that we investigate when determining the total economic impact of a technology. These, of course, include benefits, right, such as cost savings or improvements to revenue. And it also includes costs, such as licensing fees or costs incurred during implementation. However, we also look at flexibility, which we define as the future benefits a company may experience sometimes well after initially investing in a technology. Lastly, we will apply a risk factor to account for the number of variables that differ between organizations that we interview, such as the total number of employees or profit margin. All of our TEIs, though, follow the same process and methodologies. So we first conduct background due diligence on the solution, leveraging our own research, of course, as well as materials provided by our clients, which help us get grounded in the solution. We then conduct interviews with representatives from customer organizations, asking them about the impact the technology has had on their businesses. We use this customer data that we gathered to then model the financial impact of those reported benefits on a representative organization that we call the composite organization. We'll actually cover a good amount more on that in a bit. And the study is built around this financial analysis. It's also included qualitative data shared by the same interviewees. So that hence the name total economic impact. But before we do cover the specifics of the study, I do need to make you all aware of the following. So what we're presenting today is only an abridged version of a full case study, so please go and download the full case study from Johnson Controls' website. Nothing we say today or in the study itself should be considered as Forrester making any assumptions as to the ROI that other organizations will receive. That being said, you can leverage the tables in the study to input your own data and get some form of estimation as to what your results could potentially be. And then lastly, nothing we say today or in the study should be considered to constitute an endorsement. But for this study now, onto the good part, Forrester modeled a 3-year impact of investing in OpenBlue and FM systems that included an ROI of 155%. Total benefits of $11 million and an NPV of $6.7 million, NPV being net present value. Customers noted that Johnson Controls enabled these financial benefits by being in a different league than other vendors, and when it comes to its technology and equipment, which is a pretty, I think, stellar endorsement there. So how did we get to the findings, right, of that ROI, of the total benefits, the NPV? As I alluded to earlier, we actually spoke with real-life customers of OpenBlue and FM systems. We spoke with 5 such customers for this study, hailing from 2 real estate companies, 1 healthcare company, 1 financial services company, and 1 pharmaceuticals company. We spoke to a globally representative sample of customers, right? So one was global in its remit, with the others being regionally focused on North America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. Total staff for these firms ranged from 200 on the low side up to 88,000. So there's quite a range in size of company, as well as geographic distribution. Yet, despite that diversity amongst the interviewees, we actually found that they faced really similar challenges that led to their decision to adopt OpenBlue and FM systems. So the interviewees told us that they lacked a unified view into their real estate operations. As such, they couldn't really understand their aggregate facilities costs or any efficacy of their workplace management policies. This made it nearly impossible, right, to then optimize those costs and policies for the betterment of the company. Real estate industry interviewees in particular noted that competitive pressures drove their investment. So they saw that OpenBlue was attractive because it enabled customer experience and brand reputation improvements via smart controls and emissions reduction capabilities. And then lastly, the customer of FM Systems that we interviewed told us that their investment was driven by shifts in workplace culture. As workplace policies became more flexible and then again more rigid, workplace management became a core organizational function that required data capture and analytics to be effective. Importantly, here for customer experience, as noted, OpenBlue customers said that the solution enabled the surfacing and sharing of important building data that allowed tenants to be updated on or more knowledgeable about the places they lived or worked. And then after speaking with these customers, we started to build the business case for OpenBlue and FM Systems. The first step along this process is the creation of a composite organization. I mentioned this earlier. The composite is actually a representative organization that takes on the characteristics of the interviewees' organizations. So we leverage that, to tell a single story backed by multiple data points rather than multiple stories backed by those data points. The composite for this study is a $3 billion a year business operating in real estate and employing 1,800 people. It has 50 million square feet of assets under management, which are utilized for revenue generation. It has 175,000 square feet of space it owns and leverages for employee use. And it expands the usage of OpenBlue across its property portfolio by 10% of its total square footage each year. These characteristics are quite important, actually, to understanding the financial model in the study and can be leveraged as sort of defaults, if they match your business, but should be replaced if you have additional data. So what benefits did we hear, from the customers that could be applied to the composite organization? We heard that they received energy savings, and for the composite, that was worth $3 million over 3 years. They reduced chiller maintenance costs that we valued at $1.5 million over 3 years. They had real estate savings worth $3.4 million over 3 years, and rental premiums valued at $3.2 million over 3 years. And I do want to note here, that the first 3 benefits are generally applicable across all industries, while the last benefit's likely specific to companies with revenue-generating real estate operations. So do keep that in mind. And let's take a deeper look at each of these benefits now. So regarding energy savings, customers shared that without OpenBlue, insights into energy costs could only be gained once they received the bill. OpenBlue allowed them to track energy usage on a daily basis, getting a better understanding of energy usage and ways to optimize energy costs. So for the composite, we then modeled an average prior energy price per square foot of $2.30, which of course may vary for your business. And that OpenBlue was deployed to cover 10% of total property each year. Customers told us, that OpenBlue was able to save them up to 10% on energy costs annually. So we applied that. That's the number you should apply. And that was as accounted for on their energy bills. And that's important, because that figure then doesn't really take into account any rising energy prices, which could then increase the 10% savings figure. So for the composite, these savings added up to a total 3-year present value of $3 million. Okay, when it comes to equipment maintenance, customers shared that OpenBlue enabled them to get real-time visibility into the performance of assets such that maintenance no longer had to be called in at very regular intervals to check the health of the equipment. With OpenBlue reporting on equipment status, customers were able to only send in maintenance when a fix was needed for proactive maintenance. So the customers noted reducing maintenance by 67% by only sending in maintenance when needed or for proactive maintenance. And that is in particular, for their chillers. And so we based these savings on 100,000 tons of total chiller capacity for the composite and a prior cost of chiller maintenance of $50 per ton. So again, replace those figures with your own. And then we applied the 67% reduction, which actually equates to the $1.5 million over 3 years that the composite ends up saving. Again, please do keep in mind, right, this benefit assumes that the composite is not locked into multi-year contractual pricing, and that the reduction in service use actually can be equated to a reduction in service spent. The third benefit, real estate savings, we heard from customers that FM Systems provided data on office space utilization. And from this data, staff were able to determine how to best utilize their workplace space, the existing workplace space. In one application that we heard, the FM Systems customer was able to actually analyze the usage of workplace space at their HQ. And because of this, they were able to take 17.5% of that space that was going unused, consolidate it, and turn it into usable space for staff. This then enabled them to move other staff from leased buildings to their owned headquarters building. This saved on about 22% of their lease costs, which for the composite equates to $3.4 million over 3 years. And then the last quantified benefit, the rental premiums, mostly again applying maybe to real estate customers. The solution, so OpenBlue, is able to contribute to the accreditation of buildings for green and smart building certification, as customers told us. Customers noted, right, that these certifications brought better quality corporate tenants to their buildings, and that these tenants were willing to pay more for certified green and smart office space. Customers reported that OpenBlue is responsible for an approximate 7% rental premium from smart and green certifications. And so for the composite organization, this led to $3.2 million in additional profits over 3 years, with no benefit actually received in the first year after deployment, as that's when the certification process takes place. And now, we wouldn't be a total economic impact study if we didn't cover unquantified benefits as well. So in any study, right, not all the benefits the customers share with us can actually be financially quantified. In this study, customers told us that they reduced their carbon emissions and that this was very important to them from an ESG and brand perspective, but that there was no additional savings from this benefit outside of the energy savings already discussed. Second, we heard that customers increased rental premiums and improved CX that then led to improved shareholder value via stock prices. Again, customers had difficulty quantifying that, but knew that that relationship existed. And then lastly, customers shared that they experienced some technology savings with a very specific use case, leveraging OpenBlue as a replacement data warehouse for their building management. And then, of course, right, to get to an ROI, we have to include costs. Customers told us that they incurred 2 types of costs: fees from Johnson Controls and costs from internal efforts, so typically time costs of their own employees. For Johnson Controls fees, customers told us that they experienced relatively higher upfront implementation fees and then relatively lower ongoing licensing fees, especially as the portfolio continued to scale. The costs of the internal effort, the time costs of the own employees, included planning and deployment costs. For the composite, that equated to 14 person hours per week for 4 months per building deployed at a rate of $80 per hour. They also incurred training costs of 30 minutes per training per facility manager, and ongoing management costs between 1 and 2 FTEs as the solution scaled. So when the total costs are compared to the total net benefits, we see a positive return on investment of 155% and a 3-year net present value of benefits of $6.7 million. And with that, I'll turn things over to Forrester analyst Abhijit Sunil, who'll be covering some important research findings in the fields of building management and sustainability. Abhijit.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for going into the details of this wonderful study. In fact, it's been a pleasure to look at how software enables so much outcome in an organization, and careful planning around measurement and its implementation can lead to better experiences overall and actual real ROI. So I wanted to share how we can look at some data points from other Forrester studies, which highlights the importance of resource utilization and measurement through the eyes of industry leaders that Forrester hears from, and how investments into SaaS applications that enable monitoring ties to sustainability and other outcomes for smart buildings. The impact of OpenBlue and FM Systems is a classic example of how optimization leads to sustainability and how sustainability leads to optimization. In a Forrester study, where we looked at the elements of smart building and our recommendations for where investments should be, We see that a range of technologies underpin smart buildings, from technologies such as space utilization solutions, which we recommended to be invested further into, that all enabled workplace management and insights. In the next slide, we'll see how all this comes together as the needs of a smart building and what it ultimately enabled. So for an organization to rethink their smart building strategy and a smart office strategy, some of the key needs are in the ability to monitor and manage the utilization of building systems and resources. Nick alluded to some of the findings and what we heard in the study from the interviews that we did around how all of this actually led to ROI, the optimization of various buildings that will enable the outcome for ensuring health and safety for individuals who work in those spaces are all outcomes that are needs for smart buildings. In fact, we cannot change what we cannot measure. And some of the challenges that we heard from leaders who had talked to us had been around these measurement practices. And if we have a good process in place to help with measurement of our resources utilization, be it in energy or for workplace space utilization, this is this enables some of the key needs in smart buildings and the path forward for optimized or building sustainability. In the next slide, we'll look at how organizations should look at the activities that help them improve on environmental sustainability. So while we saw that companies must treat buildings as strategic assets that are at the center of their corporate priorities and technology investment decisions, we asked in a Forrester priorities survey in 2024 about what are the key actions that organizations undertook to improve their environmental sustainability, particularly. And what we learned is that among the top priorities were their focus on reducing waste, the focus on reducing outcomes for managing the energy transition. So everything associated with the renewable energy ecosystem, the measurement of the processes associated with waste management, material sourcing, all of those were key priorities for business leaders. In the next slide, we looked, in fact, at how organizations invested into various environmental sustainability related activities in the past 12 months. And what we learned is that for across various industries, and this included the 5 industries that we broke out this data here on this slide, and more, including healthcare and others from whom we hear about often, the investments into sustainability management software solutions that helps with accurate measurements across the board, right from how space is utilized to the energy utilization, all of the data that helps with the calculation of scope 1, 2, 3 emissions, to helping report such metrics into various corporate environmental regulatory mandates are all key priorities for organizations. In fact, one of the key predictions that Forrester made for 2025 in our sustainability predictions is that financial metrics will will outgrow regulatory needs as a primary driver for organizations to invest into sustainability. And we are already seeing signs of this. In fact, the outcomes that we saw that we saw leaders told us about in the interviews that we conducted, particularly related to ROI that they saw by implementing SaaS applications, particularly in the that enabled measurement of various resources within their building environment. In across various industries, we saw that everything associated with managing energy, the procurement of renewable energy, to the ability to monitor the energy transition and to look at various scenarios that will enable them to monitor the risks associated with changes in their corporate environment, as well as that are brought by by climate, excuse me, are all important metrics that leaders wanted to measure. In fact, in the next slide, we then asked about what are the various investment areas for the future, and we heard that investments into monitoring software solutions and the ability to optimize the built environment. In fact, for ultimately helping with workplace management solutions and the insights that solutions would give for helping with the energy transition to helping monitor the supply chain, all of which are slated to continue as a primary investment area.
Thanks, Abhijit, and thank you, Nick. This has been really informative and very interesting insights. So I'm going to hand over to the panel now, Julius, Nick, and Abhijit. If you've got any questions and comments that you want to discuss of what you've just heard.
Yeah, so I do. I actually, it was pretty powerful hearing from customers, right? What having a unified view into data that they never had a unified view into before was able to do for them. They noted, right, that they were able to get data from lots of different sources into one place and leverage that for a number of various applications for cost savings. And I just love to kind of hear more about how you go about pulling that data, especially right from equipment systems that aren't JCI operator owned or produced.
Yeah, we have this intelligent edge gateway that we call the OpenBlue Bridge. And that's what we use for our customers to connect to the building OT, the Operational Technology Network, and the IT network, that Information Technology Network. We use industry standard protocols like BACnet and Modbus to connect to building systems and subsystems. So the great thing about that is we can connect to any brand equipment, not just Johnson Controls equipment. And our OpenBlue platform can use APIs or protocols like MQTT that lets us connect to more IP-based systems or sensors. And we call that our connector ecosystem. And that lets us connect to a lot of things, not just, again, JCI equipment or FM system sensors. We have over 100 connectors in our library, and we add more each quarter depending on what our customers need and what equipment and IT systems they have in their building. The other thing I'll mention is that all that connectivity and communication is protected with proprietary technology that we call the OpenBlue Airwall. And that uses zero trust cybersecurity principles to secure all the connectivity with these building systems and our cloud. It makes it practically invisible to the outside world and between these systems. And that extra security is just an added benefit when you connect your portfolio to OpenBlue.
Julius, this is really interesting. In fact, you mentioned so many capabilities of the platform. I'm on the topic of data connection and analysis that you just mentioned. We all hear so much about AI today, and almost every industry and solution is talking about AI. And how do you see or plan to utilize AI in smart building solutions?
Yeah, we've used AI in our products for several years in OpenBlue. One example is we help with energy forecasting. Up to 48 hours in advance, we can help some of our customers predict if they'll exceed peak loads in advance of a utility event. And so using kind of utilization patterns and weather patterns, we can help them kind of predict in the future where their energy spend might be. Another one of our solutions uses AI to autonomously operate central utility plants, and I think some of the customers interviewed for the study use that extensively in their portfolio. But with the rapid scaling, Abhijit, of generative AI, we heard when we talked to our customers about generative AI, they told us two things. they told us that we need to trust what it's saying. And so you have to show me kind of the core data it analyzed to give me a recommendation. And so in our generative AI experiences, which we released to customers last year, they now see, based on what the AI recommendation is, the core data that helped drive it. So a human can review the data and review the recommendation before any action is taken. And the other thing they told us is that they don't know what questions to ask. If we gave them just a chatbot, they weren't sure where to start. And so we took the role of expert. And instead of providing just an open box for someone to ask a question, we help ask the questions on behalf of our customers. What are the things they should know? And so all of our generative AI outputs in our products are based on the types of questions our building experts would ask, and we present those observations back to our customers.
Very interesting. In fact, these are some of the prime use cases we hear across the board as well.
I'd actually love to hear a little bit about, customers were talking to me about, getting data that they never had before, right? Insights that they could never get to before about the usage of their workplace, right? Workplace related data, thanks to FM Systems. And I know you guys recently acquired FM Systems. How will that fit into your offerings? How are you going to expand maybe your workplace planning capabilities? Yeah.
Yeah, it's super exciting, mainly because we have now the expertise that came with FM Systems around facility management, workplace planning, and data and insights, really a first party set of sensors and equipment. So, for now we have a real time kind of sensor data at a room and desk level. That can start to highlight trends and actual real-time utilization. And so when we look at that utilization, particularly as so many companies are talking about returning to the office, is your portfolio adequately sized and spaced? Do you have enough desks? Are those desks being used? Did people not move away during the pandemic and never came back to the office? But I think, Abhijit, you said, in some of the research you saw, customers could reduce some of their leased real estate costs by up to 20%.
That's right. In fact, the ability to monitor the space utilization in buildings can be a powerful return on investment into in the monitoring solutions. And I mentioned earlier that these measurement solutions that are needed in the industry span everything from energy to space utilization to how we manage waste, including in how we manage water in many cases, such as in data centers or for built environments or even in office spaces. So these metrics that drive financial outcomes in buildings are a primary driver, not just for the workplace planning leaders, but also for sustainability leaders, so that they can leverage these outcomes as their reasons why they would invest further into sustainability related initiatives.
That's great. It's fantastic.
That's great. So thank you, Julius. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Abhijit. Very interesting findings from this important study, and also very interesting insights from what you're seeing with our customers and in the market. Now, we've had a lot of questions come in. This chat's been very busy. So let's take a look at some of the questions that have come in from our audience during this great discussion. Okay, the first one. You mentioned your composite is a real estate company. Does this framework and the results apply to other businesses or industries? For example, a mid-sized college. Nick, can I hand this one to you, please?
So that's a great question. In fact, yes, the vast majority of the framework and the results are going to apply in other industries. Of course, there may be some differences in the actual quantifications for those industries. But as I did briefly mention earlier, right, the final quantified benefit, the increase in rental premiums from green and smart certifications, that's likely to be pretty specific to the real estate industry. This benefit could, of course, then apply directly to any type of business that has some sort of real estate rental or sales component that maybe isn't technically a real estate business. But for industries that are further away from real estate, maybe like a mid-sized college, like you're from, right? You want to consider what benefits you would get from having green and smart certifications. And so, for a college, maybe, would more students be inclined to apply? Would that lead to more funding, more tuition? Would, maybe our educational institutions ranked on their sustainability rankings could therefore improve and provide a number of other benefits. So it's important to think about how the benefit is being achieved and how that applies to your industry and what benefits that could provide you.
Thank you, Nick. Very insightful. Appreciate the additional color. We've got another great question that has come in, and it's asking, on the energy savings, where did the data come from to get near real-time energy consumption metrics? Utility bills don't have real-time data. Julius, perhaps you can provide some more insight here.
Yeah, we back to that concept of connecting to lots of different OT and IT sensors. This is an example where we're connecting directly to any energy meters, water meters, natural gas meters that might be on site. In many cases, you probably have one or several that already exist for your buildings, and so we'll use those meters that you may have installed. And if you want additional or incremental granularity, there's any number of kind of new sensors that are coming to market that Johnson Controls can help bring to your building and help what we call sub-meter a particular space. If you're interested in understanding the energy usage or natural gas usage in particular buildings or on specific floors, those are things that we can help with as well. So that's how we get that data.
Thank you, Julius. Great insight on this topic. Perhaps we stay with you for these next questions that have come in from a number of members of the audience, and it's somewhat double-barreled. Firstly, customers in the study seem to have buildings with large amounts of square footage. What would you say is the minimum footprint needed to benefit from OpenBlue? And how do customers get started with the implementation? And the second part, for rental premium savings, a SMART score was mentioned. How does OpenBlue help with the certification to qualify for a healthy or green building?
That's great. Well, I'll tackle the first question, which is around kind of size of facility. So, typically we do best when we have, a 50K or 50,000 square foot facility. And apologies, I don't know what that turns into square meters for those of you joining from other parts of the world. Typically sizes like that are good. There's enough equipment and building control systems that can help us provide that incremental and extra value. But even then, we often pilot, both in OpenBlue and FM systems, we pilot with our customers just in a single building or a few floors. And that helps us, demonstrate and prove value, and then we can scale across your entire portfolio. So, many of our customers included in the study have been through kind of that life cycle of starting with a single building and then have expanded with us over time. And then on the second question, which I think was around, the scoring frameworks, with OpenBlue and the ability for us to connect data from all these buildings, it enables us or our customers really to, submit for certifications for Wired Score, Green Mark, WELL, and neighbors. And they can provide those proof points that they achieve certification. So collecting that data from their assets and really gives them those certificates that help enable or show that their spaces are operating to those standards. And one of our customers in the study, I think Nick or Abhijit mentioned, it was 7% higher lease rates compared to the market because of the fact that they were meeting these standards. So it's a great way for our customers to help improve their asset value.
Thanks, Julius, and clearly an important topic to our audience. I see we have time for another one. All right, let's see here. The question is, sustainability is top of mind, but can't add cost. How do you see sustainability goals contributing to the ROI of a building? Abhijit, can I ask for your insights on this?
What I loved about the interviews that we conducted for this study, as Nick highlighted some of the results, is that we actually heard about these ROI that came from investing into various initiatives around sustainability and also investing into the technologies that enabled us for better monitoring and better resource utilization. So some of the benefits came from energy efficiency, for example, that led to lower energy costs, overall leading to lower operational costs. We also heard about how this impacted increased or better property value through rental premiums. Then I had recently been looking at climate risk analytics solutions and the various outcomes and use cases that it enabled. And we see also that investing into sustainability and climate resilience led to actual ROI in the ability to strengthen regulatory compliance as well as risk reduction. And then we saw in one of the charts that we looked at earlier from a Forrester priority survey, where the increase in focus for waste reduction was a priority. So therefore, longer asset lifespan and lower maintenance that we heard from the study itself earlier all contributed to those, reducing long-term capex and opex. Then finally, we also heard about the certifications that these data measurement practices enabled eventually, that Julius mentioned about how all that was an outcome of good measurement practices. All of these are real metrics that we can measure that leads to ROI.
Thank you, Abhijit, and thanks for the great insights for our expert panel. A lot of important takeaways for our audience here today. And so I'd like to maybe wrap things up with a rapid fire round, and this is how it works. I'd like to hear from each of you one word, maybe two, that you want to make sure our audience today takes away from this discussion. Let's kick this off with Julius.
Well, I'll use the term value, since that's often what our customers are asking us for. The innovation and value that we bring to our customers to help them achieve value for their stakeholders, for their occupants, for their portfolio. That's my word.
Excellent. Nick, your turn.
I'll build on that actually a little bit and say capture data and then build value. Data isn't going anywhere, and we've been talking about it for over a decade now. All the data that's out there, and they're still finding ways to provide value from new data. So yeah,
great stuff. And Abhijit, I hope they haven't stolen your word.
I highlight optimization, especially in times of economic volatility or in times of uncertainty. We all want to be optimized. And what we heard throughout were areas where we could optimize our operations, and all of the data governance, data measurement, and analysis practices that Nick just alluded to, all of which leads to good optimization outcomes in our built environments, as well as for our organizations as a whole.
There you have it. Thank you for that awesome round. We could not have wrapped this up any better. So thank you, Julius. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Abhijit. To our audience, thanks for joining us here today. You can see the QR code on the screen where you can download the full study report. Thank you for your time. We look forward to continuing this dialogue with you, your team and partners at Johnson Controls. Thank you very much for dialing in today.